On this planet there are many poisonous and venomous creatures. When we try to imagine these creatures, most of us think of snakes, spiders and fish, but there are also many small, unassuming creatures that can also be poisonous and venomous. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight, and all it takes is a bite or a sting, and then you're in some serious trouble. In this video I will be focusing on some of these creatures, as I'll be going through 4 small animals that could definitely ruin your day. And for our first species we'll be heading into the tropical oceans, as we have the blue-ringed octopus. Now I say the blue-ringed octopus, but there are actually 4 species. These species are relatively small, with a maximum size of around 20 centimeters. The blue rings of which they are named after really can be quite mesmerizing. These rings are not only for show, as they're used to communicate with other creatures. Like many other cephalopods, the blue-ringed octopus is able to change color. When threatened, they will flash their blue rings, and this is an aposematic warning display. It tells other animals that it is dangerous, and should really be left alone. Most blue-ringed octopuses have a very short lifespan, living approximately 2 to 3 years. Because this is a relatively short amount of time, they are quite busy creatures throughout their lifetime. When they're not out in the open, they squeeze themselves into crevices, and they often blockade themselves in with rocks. This is another added layer of protection, and helps to keep them safe. Their diet is almost entirely made up of small crustaceans, and to take down these creatures, they have some extremely powerful weaponry. Like many other species of octopus, they have a beak, and they use this beak to pierce the exoskeleton of their prey. After they've done this, they then release their venom, at which point it's game over for their prey. The world's oceans are home to many venomous creatures, but the blue-ringed octopus's venom is one of the most potent. This creature actually possesses 2 types of venom. One is used to kill their prey, and the other is used to defend itself. The latter is the most toxic, and one blue-ringed octopus carries enough venom to kill 26 people. Its venom contains tetrodotoxin, which is the same toxin that can be found in some pufferfish species. This can often cause paralysis, and then eventually respiratory failure and death. But luckily these octopuses aren't mindless killers, and in most cases they just want to be left alone. Most bites are only when people choose to pick them up, or when people accidentally step on them. There is no antidote for the blue-ringed octopus's venom, but once you make it past the first 24 hours, you're more than likely to make a complete recovery. Venom is a very valuable substance, and it takes a lot of energy to create. That's why most venomous creatures do not want to bite you, and the blue-ringed octopus is another one of these creatures. Only around 1 to 3 people are bitten each year, and in most cases these bites are not fatal, as they're able to get medical attention. So even though these octopuses are very beautiful, if you see them in the wild, you really should leave them alone. But for our next species, we can head to pretty much anywhere around the globe, as we have the assassin bugs. Now these insects have quite sinister names, but some of their other common names are less threatening, as some also go by the name of wheel bugs or kissing bugs. The assassin bug is not one species, but is actually a family of true bugs. These bugs obviously differ in size and colour, and can be found almost all over the globe. As you might be able to guess from their name, assassin bugs are ambush predators. They often lie in wait for other insects, and then pounce when the time is right. To finish off their prey items, some assassin bugs have long curved rostrums, and they use this to inject a lethal saliva. They then suck out the insides of their unfortunate prey, before hunting once again. In some areas they're seen as a very positive creature to have around, because they're great at taking out pests, such as cockroaches or bedbugs. But if this creature is on this list, it must mean that it's also quite a bad creature to have around. This is technically true, but only in specific situations. We can now dive into the reasoning behind one of their common names, because these insects aren't called kissing bugs because they're sweet, but instead because they like to bite the lips and eyes of humans. These bites are said to be very painful, and feel much like that of a bee sting. This bite itself isn't very toxic, and although you can have an allergic reaction, in most cases this bite will heal very quickly. Instead, the danger comes from a parasite, which can be transmitted through an assassin bug bite. This parasite can then cause Chagas disease, which can then lead to heart disease and even heart failure. These symptoms can sometimes take decades to come into effect, and you may not know you have it until it's too late. One of the worst affected areas for this disease is South America, and globally around 12,000 people are killed by this disease each year. As assassin bugs are some of the main spreaders of this disease, they are partly responsible, and even though they are not directly dangerous, they can definitely ruin your life. But for our next species, we will be heading back into the tropical oceans, as we have the flamboyant cuttlefish. Cuttlefish are some of the strangest creatures on this planet, and almost seem otherworldly. They are able to change colour with ease, and are also known for being quite intelligent. They will often mimic objects in their surroundings, and also other creatures, in a bid to both trick their prey, and also hide from predators. Size-wise, the flamboyant cuttlefish isn't the most impressive, as they reach a maximum size of around 8 centimeters, but as you can guess by their name, they make up for this lack of size with colour and attitude, and are some of the coolest ocean creatures to come across. As well as swimming swimming through the water like other cuttlefish. They also use their arms to walk along the ground. This can often be more efficient than swimming, and it's very interesting to see an ocean creature move in this way. Just like the blue-ringed octopus, the flamboyant cuttlefish tends to stand its ground when it's threatened, and flashes a vibrant warning display. This tends to be more beautiful than threatening, and must be quite impressive to witness. Despite their size, they are very impressive predators, and tend to feed mostly on tiny fish and crustaceans. To catch this prey, they have two long tentacles that shoot out, and then bring the prey towards their beaks. This is very similar to the way that the blue-ringed octopus hunts its prey, but surprisingly this tiny cuttlefish is not venomous. Instead, when it is threatened by a predator, it either relies on escaping in a cloud of ink, or its toxic flesh. The flamboyant cuttlefish is extremely toxic, and if you were to eat it, it might be the last meal you ever have. If you were to eat a whole flamboyant cuttlefish, it's almost certainly enough toxin to kill you. But because these creatures are so interesting, it would be very hard to see why someone would do this. Because these tiny cuttlefish are so beautiful, some people choose to keep them as pets. In most cases, this is a bad idea, because it can be very hard to look after a cuttlefish. As they're so intelligent, they also need a lot of stimulation, and there is a small chance you could get poisoned yourself. That's why it's probably best to leave them in the wild where they belong. And if you are a big fan of this animal, you should head out on a diving trip, because they are quite easy to find, and they're very popular with divers. So even though it's extremely unlikely, this creature does have the potential to kill you. But for our final species, we will be heading to eastern Brazil, as we have Greening's frog. Now famously, South America has some very dangerous frogs. These frogs are of course very colourful, and are also famously toxic. But unlike these colourful frogs that are poisonous, Greening's frog is actually venomous. Instead of secreting poison through their skin, this frog injects its toxins, making it a very rare venomous amphibian. But if you take a look at this frog, it's very hard to find a stinger, and it doesn't appear to have any teeth. This may make you wonder how it injects its venom, and the answer really is quite strange. When the first man was stung by one of these frogs, he'd only picked it up for a short while when it started thrashing around violently. He then put it down and went about his day. It only took a few hours to feel the effects of this venom, as he felt excruciating pain and eventually had to get medical attention. To find out how these frogs inject their venom, all we need to do is look at their skull. This skull is a very unconventional skull when it comes to amphibians, and it's completely covered in spikes. These spikes are able to punch your skin, and by headbutting would-be attackers, this frog is able to envenomate them. A headbutt from this frog should by no means be taken easily, as its venom is rather toxic. It has been tested on mice, and is proved to be twice as lethal as the bite of the furgelance. This is one of the deadliest snakes in South America, and have killed thousands of people over the years. This just goes to show how dangerous this frog can really be, and although it's very small and goofy looking, it's an amphibian that's really not to be messed with. If you know of any other creatures that could have made it on this list, then let me know down in the comments below. But thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these. But until next time, goodbye.